for a very long time. And I would like to invite Marc Bourlière for this first lecture. Marc is a very prominent professor of hepatology based in Marseille, France. He's been publishing for many years on hepatitis B, essentially, but also on hepatitis C and all the other liver diseases. And he's gonna present today about the last development and update on hepatitis B with a focus on HBV cure. So please, Marc.
Thank you, Karen, for the kind invitations, for the kind comments. And firstly, I would like to thank the Anrs Vietnam team for the kind invitations to review with you today the new HBV recommendations and to give you some insight about HBV cure and the fact that we are now currently having some solutions to have finite durations of treatments that may be soon available. This is my disclosure. And first of all, let's set the HBV landscape. Globally, there is 254 million people living with HBV. Among them, 36 million have been diagnosed. And according to the last guidelines, 34% of the person living with HIV are eligible to treatment. So that's mean 83 million of people. But currently, in 2022, there is only 6.8 million people living with HIV that were treated with Hnkh. And on the left, on the right part of the slide, you can see the cascade of care for HBV infections according to WHO regions in 2016. And you can see that the target that is fixed by WHO for 2030, which is to have 90% of infected patients being diagnosed and 80% of the diagnosed patients being treated, are far to be reached by any country. Only Japan and Norway will achieve this goal in 2030. Having said that, it's clear that vaccinations had a major role in accelerating the eliminations of HBV, because if you look at the 30 years evolutions of HBV, you have more than 100 million people that are not infected. And so far, we moved from 300 million people living with HIV to now 254 million people. So, of course, this impact of vaccinations on a global scale among pediatric is fantastic. By implementations of universal vaccinations, we had a huge reductions of prevalence among the young patients. And this reductions of prevalence is, however, inequitable between countries with high income, which is in which you have a 95% reductions of prevalence among the young people, and countries with middle or lower income, in which the reduction is only 74%. So, what's the recommendations for initiations to treatments? And these recommendations were mainly based on the natural history of the disease, which is, I remind you, a battle between the virus and the immune system. And in this setting, the indications of treatment was mainly given for patients with chronic hepatitis B, either HBe antigens positive or negative. So that's mean people with elevated ALT and with an HBV DNA level over 20,000 for HBe antigens positive patients and 2,000 for patients with HBe antigens negative patients. And that's phase of the disease in which, in fact, you have a high immune response against the virus. And you have to keep in mind that the liver damage in HBV is not due to the virus, but is due to the immune response to the virus. And therefore, those patients with chronic HBV infections were not candidate for treatments due to the fact that for the HBe positive chronic infections, those patients have normal ALT, no liver damage, but they have a high rate of transmissions because they have a very high rate of HBV DNA. And for the chronic HBV infections, HBe antigens negative, those patients, for the most of them, have no liver disease or mild liver disease, and they have normal ALT. And therefore, in terms of risk of progressions for cirrhosis or risk of HCC, they have a limited risk of HCC. And therefore, that's why those patients were no indications for treatments. However, looking to the chronic HBV infections, HBV antigens positive, it's clear that the fact that those populations is at high risk of transmissions, and moreover, there is a risk due to the HBV integrations into the DNA genomes to increase at long term the risk of HCC. And therefore, in these populations of chronic HBV infection, HBe antigens positive, we really suggest and recommend to treat those patients in order both to avoid transmissions and to reduce this risk. However, and you have to keep in mind that there is some population in which whatever is the HBV DNA level, those patients should be treated. That's the case of all HBV patients with extreme hepatic manifestations and those patients with chronic infections with HIV, HDV, and HCV. And again, family history of HCC and immunosuppressions are also situations in which you should treat all patients who are HBs antigens positive. However, the recommendations have been evolved in the last 2 years, mainly to the fact that we are not now classifying and putting the indications of treatments according only to HBV DNA to ALT. But which is more important now is to assess patients for fibrosis by non-invasive methods such as FibCAT, APRI, or more sophisticated tests like FibroTest or Fibrometer, or to assess liver fibrosis by liver stiffness, either by FibroScan or shareware methods that allow us to evaluate fibrosis. And clearly, in all the new recommendations coming both from ASLD, EASL 2025, or WHO 2024, all patients with cirrhosis and significant fibrosis, whatever is HBV DNA level, should be treated. And you see that in the EASL recommendations for the patients who have an HBV DNA level over 2,000, you don't need to have a healthy upper limit of normal. If you have a fibrosis stage which is moderate, you need to be treated, and you need to be treated if you are a risk factor for HCC or if you are of high risk for HBV transmissions. And in addition, in the WHO recommendations, they had on that the fact that if you are HBs antigen positive with a comorbidity such as diabetes or MASLD, you need to be treated. And if HBV DNA is not available, you can treat patients who are only HBs positive with elevated ALT, according to the fact that you have eliminated other cause of ALT elevations. So that's really modifications in treatment indications that expand the number of patients that we treated. And therefore, we can expect to treat more than 50% of people living with HBV. That's now can resume into a single patch approach. And you can see that what is now important is first to evaluate fibrosis in the patients. And then you have to take into account the HBV DNA and the ALT elevations and the other factor. So everything could be put on a single patch approach, which is the thing that we want to do because otherwise the indications of treatment was before so complex for the people. There is special group who need treatment, whatever is their HBV DNA level. It's clearly the patients undergoing immunosuppressive therapy or chemotherapy. Keep in mind that we know all these compounds that can induce immunosuppressive, but for example, for the HBs positive patients, you see that if you give corticosteroid more than 4 weeks and more than 20 milligrams a day, you need to cover them with Hnkh in order to prevent reactivations, which is a thing that sometimes we forget to do. Other population is the acute hepatitis B. There is no need to treat patients who have an acute hepatitis B, but only patients with severe acute hepatitis B with coagulopathy or protracted course should be treated. Next problem is the pregnant woman, and it's clear that in all pregnant women with an HBV DNA over 200,000 international units per ml, you should start treatment at week 16 or 24 of gestations and continue up to 12 weeks after delivery in order to prevent mother-to-child transmissions. And in the future, we can replace this HBV DNA by the measurement of HB core-related antigens. And clearly, there is some nice study coming from Africa showing that if you have a level more than 6 log, it may replace HBV DNA in this setting in combinations with HBs antigen titer and HBe antigens. So making the things more simple for people, for situation in which HBV DNA is not available. PrEP, I just want to say one word, and I touched this problem this morning, is that PrEP prevents not only HIV, but it also prevents HBV. And in this nice study conducted in Japan among MSM between 2018 and 2021, you can see that the annual incidence among those patients on PrEP, either daily or even drive PrEP, is below 1%, compared to 3.8% in those without PrEP. So clearly, we are going to face a problem now with the injectable PrEP, cabotegravir or lenacapavir, because we are not prevented an HBV infections in these situations. So therefore, we need to reinforce vaccination in these populations and control the vaccine efficacy. And we need to make a strict follow-up of these populations because you are going to face with new HBV infection in these situations. How to treat? It's clear that now we are using only high resistance, high barrier to resistance nucleoside analog, either entecavir or TDF or TAF. TAF is available for HIV patients now in the combination, but it's not available per se in mono-infected HBV patient. And PEG interferon was used in a very few amount of patients. It's a short-term treatment of 48 weeks, but the efficacy is limited in young patients, female sex, with lower HBV DNA, male to moderate fibrosis, and elevated ALT, and genotype A and B. So therefore, most of the populations worldwide currently are treated with long-term treatments with Hnkh. And the efficacy of the treatment is there. It's clearly that with Hnkh, you are able to achieve either in HB positive or negative patients, an HBV DNA indetectability in more than 99% of the patients after 10 years of follow-up of treatments. So clearly, this treatment is effective. Initially, we thought that with PEG, we have a higher rate of HBe seroconversions for the HBe positive patients. But when you see the result on long-term TDF and entecavir, the results are exactly the same. And anyway, in all treatments, the rate of HBs antigen loss is very low. In HBe negative patients after 10 years is around 0%. So there is another problem now, which is we have to face with, is how can we manage those patients with long-term treatment? And is there any algorithm for stopping Hnkh? Clearly, the first algorithm is as soon as you have lost HBs antigens, and this is sustainable, you can stop treatment. And in this case, the risk of reactivations of HBV during follow-up is limited around 6% in the Hnkh cohort at 10 years. So clearly, these populations, this response is huge. And you really reduce the number of HCC incidents in these populations. And the prognosis is about the same that patients that are really not carrying HBV. However, we can discuss to stop treatment in some patients that are completely virosuppressed for years. But the criteria for stopping those treatments is very strict. You should have no advanced liver disease, and more importantly, you should look at the HBs antigen titer. And only patients who had an antigen titer below 1,000 in Caucasian patients and below 100 in Asian patients, you can try to stop treatment. The idea by stopping treatment here is to induce an immune response against the virus. And in fact, it's occur only in about 10% of the populations, and you have HBs antigen loss in this setting. However, the risk when you are stopping treatment is that you need to follow the patients in a regular fashion for at least the first year, because you have high risk of severe reactivations, and you need to restart treatment as soon as HBV DNA reappears, and of course, if ALT increase. So this is a very very difficult situations because you need to be sure that your patient is agree for a strict follow-up after stopping treatment. Otherwise, you are going to face with severe reactivations and problem. If you might to be a little bit further on that, it's what we call the partial response. So that's those patients in which they have HBs antigen titer below 100 international units per ml with undetectable HBV DNA, and you stop therapy in these patients and you see what's happened. This situation is quite rare. In this RETRACT B cohort, in which more than 2,000 patients were followed, it's only occurred in 5% of the populations. And however, if you look at the risk of clinical relapse in this setting, it's only 5.2%, and 62% of the patients at 5 years lost HBs antigens, compared to 38% of clinical relapse and 7.3% of HBs antigen loss in those patients with HBs level below between 100 and 1,000. So therefore, you can really separate the population. And of course, this response is better in patients who are Caucasians and less better in Asian patients. And if you can stratify with a small group of patients with an HBs antigens level below 10 units per ml, in this setting, the response is very good because you have no clinical relapse at 5 years, and you have 81% of chance of HBs antigen loss. So what we are currently achieving with the treatment is a good virusuppression, which is a first point because with virusuppressions and normalizations of ALT, you achieve a reduction of progressions of fibrosis and you decrease significantly the rate of HCC, which is the main problem with HBV. But however, what we want to achieve now is to obtain functional cure. Functional cure is defined by the fact that you have, after stopping treatment, and you stop treatment when HBs antigen is negative and HBV DNA undetectable, and this could remain stable without treatment. And that's really what we want to do in order to have a finite durations of treatment. With this functional cure, we are going to reduce the risk of reactivations, and we are going to reduce significantly the risk of HCC. However, if we want to achieve a complete cure, that's more complicated because you have to eliminate all CCC DNA and all HBV, integrated HBV DNA. And that's the steroid cure, which is currently a dream in order to be completely off Hep B. So what do we have as a drug pipeline for achieving this goal? In addition to Hnkh, we can use more potent replication inhibitor compound, like the capsid assembly modulator, or we can add on that compound that reduce antigens, such as silencing RNA or antisense oligonucleotide. And we can also combine those regimen with an immune stimulation, either by invigorate the innate immunity with TLR7, 8, or 9 agonist using immune checkpoint inhibitor, and you can stimulate the HBV-specific B T cells by therapeutic vaccine, and you can use exogenous monoclonal antibody in order to reduce both the entry of the virus and to delay most of the subviral particle. And you can also use T cell receptors, T cells therapy, in which you manipulate T cell receptors in order to direct them against the HBV. And finally, you can use gene and epigenome editing. So that was the landscape, but now we have some results. Second generation CAM is useful because it's reduced more deeply HBV DNA than Hnkh. And more often, it's also induced an HBs antigens level reductions in at least HB positive antigens patients. So this compound may replace by the end the Hnkh if they show a more safety profile than Hnkh. What is going to be the cornerstone of the combinations of the next combinations therapy is clearly the silencing RNA. Those silencing RNA are conjugated with GalNAc in order to be concentrated in the liver. If you use it with CAMs, you are going to induce a deeper decline of HBs antigen titer, but you never achieve HBs antigen loss by using only scRNA and CAM. However, if you combine scRNA plus CAM plus PEG, especially immunotolerant patients, we were able to achieve 16% of HBs antigen loss after just only 1 year of treatment. So those results never happened before. If you use scRNA in combinations with stellar agonists, 12% HBs loss. It's better when you use PEG interferon, 17% HBs antigen loss. When you use it with PD-1 inhibitor, there is a reduction of HBs antigen titer, but no HBs antigen loss. And moreover, there is side effect due to the PDI inhibitors. So this is not, to my opinion, a good option. We can use it with therapeutic vaccine. Again, 7% of HBs antigen loss. If you add on that low dose of nivolumab, you achieve 23% of HBs antigen loss. But the most powerful combination so far is the association of scRNA plus monoclonal antibody, in which you have 16% HBs antigen loss. And if you add PEG on the top of that, you achieve around a quarter of HBs antigen loss just after 1 year's therapy. So you can do maybe faster and stronger. And that's recent result present on a Chinese molecule, Chinese HT101 silencing RNA with a monoclonal antibody. And you could see this compound are given monthly. And after 6 months of treatment, you have whole patients who had a baseline HBs antigen level below 1,000 that achieve HBs antigen loss. And for those with HBs antigens over 1,000, about half of them achieve HBs antigen loss. So very impressive result, but we need to have long-term follow-up data in these patients. And the other compound is the antisense oligonucleotide. Antisense oligonucleotide is directed on certain regions, and they are deleting and cutting all the messenger RNA. And bepirovirsen is the one which is going to be released in the next years. And in the phase 2 pivotal study, you can see with the 6 months regimens of bepirovirsen weekly, we are able to achieve about 10% of HBs loss, only in the population with HBe antigens negative. And you achieve, and this response is sustainable over time, over 4 years follow-up now. And that's occur in populations who were treated with or without nucleotide analog. Adding PEG on that did not modify the thing, but this study was done at the COVID time. And so maybe we need to repeat this study in order to see if the addition of PEG do anything. But again, you have new SO that is commercially available and which are acting with an RNA-dependent and independent manner. And in this situation, with 6 months administrations of 300 milligrams, they were able to achieve 68 to 75% of HBs antigen loss. So very impressive result. However, when you do a long-term follow-up, at least 24-week follow-up, it goes down to between 22% to 31%. Nevertheless, it's very good result in terms of HBs antigen loss. So that's really clear, give us some hope about the treatment. So in conclusion, HB loss will be possible with finite durations of treatment. The second generation CAM may play a role by replacing NUC if they are without safety concern. scRNA will be a pivotal role in the future combinations. Bepirovirsen, the first antisense oligonucleotide, will be available in the next 2 years. And the combination of scRNA and ASO could achieve very nice results. However, currently, there is no ideal combinations, and it's need to be defined. What's next? Next will be new therapeutic in which you are directing and acting against cccDNA and again integrated HBV DNA. And there is 2 tools to do that. We can redirect T cells to infect hepatocytes by using CAR T cell technology or T cell receptor managing engineering. Or you can directly targeting cccDNA and integrated HBV DNA by gene editing. So if you got the T cell receptor therapy, it's interesting because it's acting against the virus, but it's also acting against the HCC. And in this study, So it's quite a complicated study because you are first to determine the HLA type of the patients. But if the HLA type is HLA-A1, you can select your patients, take the leukocytes, then manage them, construct the SCG 101, and then reinject that in the patients after inducing an immune depression. And it's worked after single injections. Among 12 patients, 11 have a drop of the HBs antigen level, 4 remain achieve HBs antigen loss, and they all maintain this response during follow-up. And when you look at the consequence on the HCC, in half of the patients, there is shrinkage of tumor. So therefore, there is a tumoral response associated with a virological response. So very interesting therapeutic. The last therapeutic I will show you is the Arcus result, which is the gene editor systems in which you use a lipo nanoparticle in order to deliver messenger RNA and contain an Arcus gene editing nuclease. In this case, you are cutting the HBV DNA in a very conserved site, which is conserved in 92% of the isolates according to whatever is the subtype. And what you are doing with this molecule is you are directly targeting cccDNA and integrated HBV DNA. And so you are completely destroy the productions of pregenomic RNA, and therefore you are also decrying the HBs antigen titer and all in the bloodstream. And the result of the phase 1 study have been recently presented, and you can see that after 2 dose injections, you are able to have a deep decrease of HBs antigen level. So with this kind of technology, you can expect after 1, 2, 3 injections to be able to really release all the virus in the cells. So that's really a promising future for new therapies. So in conclusions, the recent recommendations converge on broadening treatment indications. Treatment with high resistance barrier nucleoside analog remain the gold standard. However, the effective implementations of universal vaccinations at birth or catch-up vaccinations throughout life remain an essential priority for the eliminations of HBV and HDV. And I think that we need to concentrate our effort in order to really implement these vaccinations. But you have seen that with the current advanced and early stage of gene therapy, offer really a hope for limited durations, treatment durations, in order to achieve functional cure. And with that, I'm sorry to be a bit long, but I will thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Boulier. So I would introduce the next speaker, Dr. Đoàn Thị Thùy Linh. Dr. Đoàn Thị Thùy Linh is the Deputy Head of Department of HIV and Chronic Infection Disease Control in Vietnam, Administration of Disease Prevention. Dr. Linh has 16 years of experience in HIV prevention, cure, and treatment. And now, currently, she attends and supports the development of the national program to control hepatitis in Vietnam, viral hepatitis. And she also supports coordination of activities of Anrs MIE in Vietnam site. So please, the voice is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Huê and Chair. My name is Đoàn Thị Thùy Linh. I'm working in VADP in MOH. So today I'm very happy and delighted to attend this conference, very important conference of ANIS me in Vietnam. So on behalf of VADP, so I would like to sharing about very general about the hepatitis B situation in Vietnam. Firstly, so I would like to say the burden of hepatitis B in Vietnam. You may know that in Vietnam, so we have more than 6.5 million people are living with hepatitis B in Vietnam. So this data estimation 7.2% of general population, and also this is the main the main causings. The main causing for over 26,000 cases die every year. And also liver cancer as a leading cause of the cancer related to the death in Vietnam, with the rate near 20 case per near 19 case per 100,000 population. And liver cancer is the second most common cancer overall in Vietnam. So estimation, the rate 30.6% for a bone cancer case in 2022. And you can see that the epidemiology for HBV in Vietnam. So we have one publication in 2024 between two groups, the low risk population and the high risk population. And in the low risk population, so the prevalence of HBV around under the 10%. And in the high-risk population, the prevalence of HBV in a key population like a PIGWID, like a MSM or something like this, around from more than 10 to 15%. And and among the high-risk population, so we well know about the hepatocellular carcinoma near 60%, more than 60%. So this is a trend in annual the die every year from viral hepatitis, HIV, and TB. You can see that in the slide, the number of die due to hepatitis infection exceeds the number of die due to TB since 2015. And according to the national survey in 2018 to 2019, focused target group adults more than 18 years old. You can see that the prevalence of anti-HCV total positive in Vietnam in 2018 was 55%, and also the same number 54 and 55% between urban area and also rural areas. And the second thing, prevalence of current hepatitis B virus infection, it means anti-HBC total positive and SBS antigen positive in Vietnam in 2018 was 9.4%, and the same data between the rural area and urban area. And distribution of HIV infection by ecological region. So you can see that in my country. So the reason with the highest prevalence, including three reasons. The firstly is the South Central Coast. And also Central Highland and the Northwest, around 11.4% the prevalence. And the region with the lowest prevalence is the North Central Coast, 7.5%. And that is a national survey in 2018 to 2019. And we found that top 5 provinces would be the highest HBs antigen prevalent in Vietnam before the merging province. In the past, so we have 63 provinces, and now so this is the 5 provinces among 63 provinces. So including that Sơn La, Bình Thuận, Quảng Nam, Kon Tum, and Đắk Nông, and almost 5 provinces for the prevalence of HBV around 12%. And that is the focus on the prevalence in the adults. And also the HBV and HCV co-infection is HB antigen and anti-HCV is 0.2%, and also co-infection of HBsAg and HCV core antigen 0.1%. And this data, the low of co-infection rates indicates positive progress in controlling cross transmission. Face to the epidemiology hepatitis B in Vietnam. So we in Vietnam, so we have some activity to respond and control hepatitis B. Firstly, from the national, so we have issued the policy and framework to the control of hepatitis B in Vietnam. Firstly, so we have the insurance of a plan for the prevention viral hepatitis from 2015 to 2018. And so the second thing, we have national action plan toward elimination of hepatitis B transmitted from mother to child for 2018 to 2023. And we have list the medical service covered by health insurance, and also hepatitis B including that. And we have national guideline on diagnosis and treatment of hepatitis B, and national guideline on hepatitis B and C virus testing, and also national guideline adjusting regulation on HBV and HCV testing for the outpatient care. So talking about the vaccination hepatitis B in Vietnam, for the vaccination program, very important to the control and elimination of hepatitis B, especially to MTCT. So you can see that the national immunization program. So we have seen 2005, followed by 4 doses. The first dose and also after the 3 doses. So talking about the coverage of the vaccination now, in 2023 for the hepatitis B first dose. So we have 82%, while the third dose coverage dropped to 65%. So this data is less than compared to the 81% coverage vaccination Hep B birth dose in 2022. And the reason at that time, because in Vietnam at that time, in 2022, we after the COVID-19, so we found we faced to face a lot of things related to the bidding, procurement of vaccination, and also at that time, so we have mechanism change. It means that the transition of procurement from national level to province. Therefore, so we found some problem, some issue cannot buy vaccine at that time. But now this issue already to improve. And also in 2024, for the hepatitis B first dose coverage target raised from the 85% to 90%. And this data very in line with the WHO recommendation. And the challenges, big challenges for the vaccination of hepatitis B, we found that up to now, the besides the reason related to the COVID-19, related to the bidding and procurement in the past, and now so we are still face to face with the mountain area where the rate of birth outside of the healthcare facility very high, especially the mountain areas in the north. In the south, sorry, and therefore the coverage of vaccination low. That is a slide show up the coverage of hepatitis B birth dose and hepatitis B the third for 3 doses in Vietnam from the 2022 to 2023. And also the impact of HPV vaccination in Vietnam following the 4 provinces in the South Central Coast in region. So talking about the elimination of mother to child transmission, we call EMTCD. In the national target, so we put the target national under 0.1% by 2030 for the children under 5 years. And now in 2024, equal in 63 provinces. So we have only 20 per 63 provinces have already issued the province action plan to EMTCD. You may know that in the last year, 7 months ago, so Vietnam, we face to face with the merging and rearranging organization and healthcare system in the same. We don't have district and also so many province merging. And up to now, so we have only 4 provinces. Therefore, up to now, VADP, so we don't have the data for the province action plan for EMTCD update. So I think for the this year, for this quality, so we can continue to remind the province to continue to develop the EMTCD action plan. And the second thing, you may know that following the national data from the results of WHO evaluation for EMTCD, SBS-AG screening coverage among pregnant women from near 70% in 2021 to 51% in 2023, well below the national target 60% and also global target in the 90%. The issue here is many tests are conducted only in admission for delivery rather than earlier in pregnancy when intervention would be more effective. And the second thing, SBS screen is not covered by health insurance. All the patient need to pay by our pocket. This is a big barrier to timely screening and also access to care. Talking about the testing and treatment hepatitis B, so we found that some issue, serological tests for HBV and HCV as well are limited and not smart in national hospital and also province. And the second thing, virus test. Up to now, for more expensive and limited in some province and national hospital, and limited to linked treatment and care opportunity. And people living in rural areas face to burden of disease may be higher because related to the distance to access of virus testing. And also heavy treatment, so TDF is a common and wide available in Vietnam. And we have some recommendation of 7-year recommendation. Firstly, so we need to enhance our leadership and coordination. And the second thing, put up Hep B vaccination coverage. So ensure stable vaccine supply and clarify vaccine target at all levels. And also the third, we need to expanding the HBV testing for pregnant women and other priority for the population at all levels and scaling up viral tests maybe throughout of the Gen expert. And also decentralized testing and treatment, health common station, health central area, and integrate with HIV, HBV, and HCV. And increasing reimbursement from health insurance rate for the treatment and capacity building for the healthcare worker. And so finally, so we recommend that to enhance a data system and SI because now, so we don't. But now we don't have comprehensive surveillance system data at national level. So we have only to collect the data case treatment. Therefore, not enough to follow up and indicator we can follow in and based on that, so we can have plan to responsibility with the hepatitis B program in Vietnam. So that is my presentation for hepatitis B situation. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we're going to turn to the third presentation, and I would like to invite Dr. Bin. For long-term evolution after HCV cure, among people with people who inject drugs in Haiphong. Dr. Bin has graduated from Haiphong University. He's a lecturer at the Department of Epidemiology at the Faculty of Public Health in Haiphong, and he's also the Vietnam project manager for DRIVE-C, and is involved in other Anrs MIE projects, including post-COVID and DRIVE-TB. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind introductions. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of our study team DRIVE-C, I will present the long-term evolution after HCV cure among people who inject drugs in Haiphong within a DRIVE-C study. So hepatitis C remains a major global health problem, especially PEWIT carries a high death burden. Vietnam is one of the 10 countries contributing almost of all global HCV infection among PEWIT, with the prevalence between 60 to 70% and an incidence of about 10% annual per year. The directing antiviral shows similar cure rate in PEWIT as in general population. However, the data on long-term evolution after HCV cure among PEWIT, especially in the low and middle income country, are still very limited. So our objective was to assess the long-term evolution after treatment, such as HCV reinfection, clinical and biological evolution, and also fibrosis changes among DRIVE-C participants who achieve a sustainable sustained viral like SVR. And DRIVE-C study is a therapeutic cohort of PEWIT with HCV infection in Haiphong. The participants were recruited from community-based respondent-driven sampling and from a existing HCV cohort. Eligible participants who current with detectable HCV INA who were started DA treatment. They were included if achieve SVR 12 definition as HCV RNA undetectable at least 12 weeks after the end of the treatment. And we plan to follow the participant at 3 years after the end of the treatment. As you can see, is the simplified summary of the DRIVE-C study. And at the 3 years visit took place at Vietnam 2 hospital. We perform clinical assessment and laboratory assessment. This comprehensive package is performed in close collaboration with the community-based organization. Among all those who start the treatment, there were 916 who achieved SVR12. 63 participants did not achieve SVR12 due to treatment failure, death, loss to follow-up, or incarceration. Among all of those who achieved SVR12, 229 did not attend the long-term follow-up visit, almost due to death, imprisonment, rehabilitation, or inability to reach to contact and refuse. In overall, about 97%, about 97% who successfully followed up at 3 years, and this illustrates the strong strong involvement of community-based organization here. At baseline, the median age was about 42 years. The population predominant male. About nearly half of them were HIV infection. 2 parts of them were currently drug use, and nearly 60% of them were still injecting. This indicates that this is a high vulnerable and conflict and with comorbidity and societal barrier. For the results about the HCV reinfections, with nearly 2,000 person years of follow-up, there were 41 participants had detectable HCV RNA again, corresponding to HCV reinfection incidence of 2.1 case per 100 person years. This is a relatively low rate and comparable with the high-income countries, and it's also indicate that with HCV treatment integrated with harm reduction and CBO support can maintain the low low level of reinfections among the participants. In terms of clinical and laboratory change, we divide into group of participants. First is the based on the cirrhosis or not non-cirrhosis participant, and we observe significantly improvement of liver function in both cirrhotic participant or non-cirrhotic participant. AST, ALT, GGT, alkaline phosphates was significantly improved. Platelet counts decreased mainly in cirrhotic participant, and also you can see that ultrasound markers remain stability or improvement. For example, for pop vein dilatation decrease. Among those with no cirrhotic, we observe that BMI increased, and the hypertension was more frequently in non-cirrhotic participant. It's indicating that after cure, we need to take care also about the metabolic and metabolic hypertension problem in the participant. Comparing baseline and long-term follow-up visits, we see that Apri score and liver stiffness measurements were decreased in both cirrhotic and non-cirrhotic participants. In 441 participants with paired fibroscan available, it means available at both baseline and 3 years, around 74% with improve of their fibrosis stage, and only about a quarter of them had no fibrosis improvement. That led us to investigate the associated factor. In multi-regression analysis, we found three independently factors associated with the absence of improved fibrosis. Firstly is HCV infection with almost double of odds ratio of non-improvement. Second is hypertension, marginal but significantly associated with non-improvement. And third is the largest effect is HCV reinfection with adjusted odds ratio of 3.3. The finding indicating that curing HCV is necessary but not sufficient, and we need to focus also on controlling HCV infection, preventing HCV reinfection, and also hypertension among the participants after cure to achieve the liver fibrosis improvement. In conclusion, this last cohort of PEGWID in Haiphong demonstrates that a long-term follow-up after DAA treatment is possible with high retention at 3 years when CBO actively engaged. We observe a low reinfection rate comparable to high-income countries, and a majority of participants had improved liver function and fibrosis. However, HIV co-infection, hypertension, and HCV reinfection were key barriers to fibrosis regression. The DRIVE-C model combining community-based recruitment, integrated care, and long-term monitoring appear high efficient to control HCV among PEGWID in low and middle-income countries. To achieve HCV WHO HCV elimination targets, similar dedicated program for PEGWID need to be scaled up widely in Vietnam and beyond. So we would like to acknowledge all the participants of DRIVE-C, the CBO, the partners in France, US, English, and Vietnam for the contributing to the study, and the Anrs, sponsoring, and the local health authority to let this study available. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Bình. For the next speaker, you would like to introduce Dr. Phạm Hnkh for the next presentation. Dr. Phạm Hnkh is a medical doctor, a senior researcher and lecturer at National Institute of Hygiene and Epidemiology. He is head of Department of HIV/AIDS with a PhD obtained in medical science from Karolinska Institute, Sweden. Dr. Phạm Hnkh has extensive experience in laboratory science and public health research, with primary focus on HIV and other infectious diseases, including HCV, STIs, TB, and his work includes implementation and management of HIV/STI, biological and behavioral surveillance, as well as research projects targeting high-risk populations and communities. Please, that's all voice for
Thank you very much.
presentation.
First of all, I would like to thank for the RNS committee to invited me to have a present our work in this meeting today. So on behalf of our study group, I would like to present the work with the title of evaluation of the HCV care and treatment for the HIV, HCV, and co-infected patients in decentralization area in Vietnam from 2003 and 2006. So this belongs to one series of the different study among the Movida in the monitoring of pilot in decentralization area. So this long-term collaboration for about 10 years. This study group, we have Dr. Jean Madec from Institut Pasteur in Paris, and our group is including the Professor Nguyễn Anh Tuấn and the other staff. And we have Dr. Cao Thanh Thủy from Hanoi Medical University, and we have a strong support from the National Center for Hepatitis C, B, and Delta from Henry Mondor Hospital, Dr. Slim Rachi. And we have a group from the CDC Nghệ An and CDC Yên Bái. This study support from Anrs funding. This is content of the presentation. And in global, WHO estimated that about 50 million of people infected with HCV and about 1 million of people new infection occurs every year. And in the year 2022, there are about 240,000 people died from HCV, and who have set a target for the elimination of hepatitis in the year 2030 with about 90% reduction of the new chronic HCV and HCV infection, and about 65% reduction in hepatitis related to mortality. And in Vietnam, we have a very HCV prevalence is very high among people living with HIV and AIDS, especially in people who inject drug. And with a strong support from Global Fund, and their treatment would be free of charge for people living with HIV and AIDS. But in Vietnam, there are many mountainous areas. So HCV viral testing remains an issue in a remote setting. In previously our study, we have published so that you can using the dry blood spot DBS as a type sample we were used to facilitate to assess the HCV viral load with very high sensitivity and high specificity. And also in our previous study, we conduct study in people living with HIV/AIDS in 6 remote provinces in the northern of Vietnam. And the study shows that people living with HIV/AIDS and people with inject drug user have low virological success rate and also less compliant to the HIV disease schedule. So that's why the question is that are the people less compliant with the treatment, and would that impact the success rate? So that's why we conduct this study. This is a cohort study enrolled of the HIV/HCV co-infected people from 2 mountainous provinces in Vietnam, Nghệ An, and also Yên Bái. Now it's changed name to Lào Cai. And the main objective is compare the compliance of the treatment between the PWIC and non-PWIC group. The secondary objective estimate the success rate and also describe the HCV genotype and also estimate the rate of HCV and reinfection rate after the DIQ. The study population is HCV infected adult on AIT and diagnosis test, second HCV infections study in 10 different OPC in Nghệ An and Yên Bái during the time 2003 and 2006. This study process diagram when the HIV infected people and with anti-HCV reactive more than 18 years old of age, they were consent to study, and also if they agree, and we can collect the DBS for HCV viral load,
And if the HCV virus positive, we can transfer to the DA treatment. And also we measure HCV virus at the end, HCV virus at the end of DA treatment. And also as 12 weeks after treatment as VR12. And also we follow up the patient negative for another 24 months, even 2 years. And also we the HCV virus, we use the genotyping and after SRB12, if the virus is positive, we do the HCV drug resistant. And this study, we also do another many other tests like BSAG and SBB virus and also HIV virus based on DBS sample. But also we can evaluation of the quality of life of patient based on the questionnaire from WHO. So this study is run during the time of the study. In the total of more than 300 HIV-infected patients on ARV was screened for the HCV, and among them 58% of HCV positive. Also 75 people, even if free of charge, but still 75 people declined participate in the study. At the end of the recruitment, about 280 HIV and HCV co-infected patients start their treatment. Among them, 206 PWIT and 74 non-PWIT. Of course, during the time treatment, many people were also lost to follow up because of this group, like a hidden group, especially the infecting officer, and also they have to go to work. So in Vietnam, the guideline from government duration of DA treatment usually is like 12 weeks, and DA were dispensed to the participant about 28 days, and patient were collected the DAs during the 3-time visits, and the study follow the national guideline, and in total of the 280 patients start DA treatment, and during the time of the treatment, there are 9 people lost to follow up, but at the end, 7 of them also come back to in-care treatment. At the end of the treatment and at the SRB12 visits, there are 206 people, account of 96% visit to check for the compliance and also the success of treatment. And in total, we have 4 people die, and also 7 people lost to follow up. For the demographic of characteristic of study population, so you see this table that most of the participants in this study is a man, account for 94%, but 100% of the PWIT is were male. And because we conduct study in mountainous area, so about more than 70% of the participant is a minority. So that may be least different for the success of the study, the treatment. And for the time for the ARV treatment and the medium time about 8.8 to 9.2 years under ARV treatment, and all of the treatment so that the HIV virus suppressed very high, about more than 97%. And the study we test for the HCV virus were very high level. Cause this on this infection, and among the virus high level, we are successful genotyping for about 78% of the total 280 sample, and we also do the genotyping, and in this table shows that HCV genotype 1 is account for 67%, and genotype 6 account for 18.5%. One of the surprising things is genotype 3 is account for 14.5%. It's very high compared to another study before, because this genotype 3 is also the treatment may be may take longer time than expected. We also investigate the non-compliant to DA treatment. We base on the definition based on the ARV treatment in Vietnam. One people consider patient consider non-compliant can be like being late at least 3 days at the visit for the renewal, or they can be like they shall reporting having missed at least 3 days of the treatment. So in total, in this study, it showed that about 21.4% of the patient is non-compliant with the treatment. We also do the logistic regression to investigate there any factor related to the non-compliant. But the analysis showed that the person who living away from the OPC side or in Thai group is rated with the non-compliant treatment. But the other factor like the age and the year of treatment and other factor is not rated to non-compliant. We also want the main goal to see the treatment of the success of DAA in the treatment outcome by 280 people living with HIV/AIDS who start their treatment at the beginning, and at the we will be accounted for the patient who attended at the VR12 visit and also have a HCV virus tested, and the study shows that about 10.3% of treatment tenure and the successful only about 90% only. This treatment success seems a little bit lower than compared to other reports of other study, but we think that because of this study we conducted in mountainous area and it's very difficult, and also most of the patient is injecting drug user, and so that's why maybe they may affect. And we found that the only factor significant associated with the failure was the incompliance with the treatment. And the result, the percentage is unchanged, including the 4 deaths. If we consider as a failure, it's a result unchanged. And we found that because of this study, we found that more than 14% of the HCV genotyping, but we could not find the HCV genotype associated with the treatment failure. So in conclusions, among the more than 700 HIV positive patients, 280 HIV HCV co-infected patients who enrolled in the study in the 2000 province with about 70% were ethnic minority. At the end of the DAA treatment, 21%, 21.4% of patients were non-compliant with the DAA treatment. And we found that the DV status not associated with non-compliant DAA and distant to OPC increases risk of the non-compliant. And the Thai ethnicity has lower compliance with the DAA treatment. And overall DAA treatment success rate as SPR12 was about 90%. The HCV genotyping was successfully performed in 221 samples, and Taiwan about 67%, and followed by genotype 6, 80%, and genotype 3 is about 14.5%, is very high than expected. Because it's an ongoing study, we together with this study, there social science sub-study belong to a first group, also study to investigate the reason why for the non-compliant patient with their treatment and treatment failure. This study is ongoing, and also we continue to test for sample, including the HCV drug resistance by genotyping of the patient with treatment failure. All the patients will continue to be followed by about 24 months to estimate the rate of STD reinfection. So we would like to thank all of the participants and the healthcare in the team. I'd like to thank Institute Pasteur for long-term collaboration. We also thank for Anrs and MIA to a lot of support to Hnkh, and especially thank to VADP before it's a VAC, especially Dr. Phan Thị Thu Hương, who's a former head of VAC, for the direction and strong support to Hnkh. These are some pictures because we have more than now it's 12 years of collaboration with Pasteur Institute and very long-term support from Anrs. So last year we have Dr. Oliver Broches, a friend ambassador, to visit Hnkh, and also of course we have Dr. Didier and Anne-Claire to have a site visit and globally supervision. Of course, we have a group from the CDC in Nghệ An and Yên Bái to participate and with Hnkh team. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
So now it's open for discussion. We have a lot of time for questions. So please, yes.
Yes, very nice presentation. I had a questions about your populations. There is 57 patients that were not eligible for treatments, but what is the reason why they were not eligible for treatment?
Yes, that also, because when we tested for about more than 700 HIV-affected patients, but about 57 patients with SCV reached with the anti-SCV. But when we invited them for the study, and many of them they refused, and also they do not take the medicine. So we found that situation in many mountainous province in Vietnam, even with HIV, when they was diagnosed for the HIV positive, and ARV treatment in Vietnam free. But we have no way to persuade them that they join the treatment free. But because maybe, and then we come to investigate, maybe sometime, because maybe they are minority people, so maybe counseling them is very difficult. So besides this study, also we are the social science to do the interview and a group discussion to see how the problem is.
And short questions.
Yes.
Is the patients who had no response, no SVR, was related to genotype, especially genotype 3B?
Sorry, can you repeat this question?
You state that by the end you have 89% of SVR in these populations. Is the patients who did not respond to treatments were from genotype 3B or 3A, or is there any difference according to genotype in response rate?
Our study, we don't have any relation with the genotype, but previous studies show that the genotype 6 is maybe higher, and in this study genotype 1 is high, but one of the significant is the genotype 3 is increasing. Usually it requires a longer duration of year treatment, but in this at least during this time we do not find any different.
And last comment, I would like to acknowledge the study that have been conducted in long-term evolutions after HPV cure among peewits, because this is the largest study worldwide with the longer durations of follow-up. And this is due to your organizations, the patients' organizations. And I think that's really show the strength of your work in Vietnam, which is never achieved in any other country in the world. I mean, there was no data on long-term outcome in peewits in Canada, US, and so you are the first with the longest durations treatments evaluation. So congratulations, because never, and that's due to your work. I mean,
Yes. Yes, very good. And maybe to emphasize what you have just said, I have a question regarding this long-term follow-up. So I don't know where Dr. Bin is. Here? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, so I've been really amazed, as you have pointed out, by the low rate of reinfection. And I was wondering if it's due to very efficient harm reduction interventions, or I was also wondering if, so you know that concept of population viral load. So now that you have treated this big population, the global viral load of the population is low, and it might explain that despite the fact that they are still injecting and the rate of injection is quite high, you have a very low reinfection rate. So what's your opinion? Either harm reduction intervention very efficient, and maybe combined with low population viral load?
Thank you for your questions. So, as you know, before 2018, almost of people with HCV infection, almost I said almost not particularly case, did not receive any DAA. And in our study, we were successful recruited for a lot in around 1,000 participants with HCV infection for treatment. And as you know that in Vietnam, this number is not so, we can say that it's not so high. In related to the number of people estimated infected with HCV, and as if we can see our paper of Peter Wickman with modeling estimation of eliminate HCV infection in Vietnam. So we estimate, we expect that we need to implement at least 6 rounds of this intervention to eliminate the HCV infection among people. And in the Vietnamese context, we don't have a lot of cases with HCV treatment. In the report of Vietnamese authority until 2022, we have only about 16,000 participants patient treated with HCV DDAA. So with the context of treatment, maybe it reflect or maybe influence in the reinfection rate, but it's only one of reasons. And we think that our intervention may also have an impact in the reduce of the reinfection rates in this population. So thank you for.
Maybe just to complement what Dr. Bin was saying, so we only about 10% of the people, of the population of people who inject drug was targeted by this intervention. So the community viral load is still extremely high. So that may not explain the reduction, the sharp reduction, and it's a 5-fold reduction. It's a huge reduction in incidence. However, these people were recruited through network-based approach, so which means a respondent-driven sampling approach, whereby people recruited among their network. So they probably recruited people they were injecting with, people they got infected with. And therefore, we may, because they are likely to get reinfected with the same people, therefore, this may have contributed to some extent to the reduction of the incidence. However, there is probably an important awareness of the HCV and the work of the community to also decrease. So I think it's a combination of several components.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other question? Yes, here.
I just want to add some comment on this conversation about the low reinfection rate among the follow-up. I do believe that, and I think that is an interesting question that we may need some you may want to do some further analysis or study, because the reason why we started to treat hepatitis C, because in our drive study, in the first few years, we found that the incidence of HIV is extremely low, but the incidence of SCV is high. So at the beginning, the incidence of SCV is almost like 10%. The incidence of HIV is like low, very, very low. But SCV is like 10%. So that's why we start to that we call micro elimination to treat a large number of people who inject drug with SCV. And I do believe that it contributes to the low reinfection rate, because the same population before, the same population that we recruited by RDS in the same network, before they have a high SCV incident, and now they have low reinfection rate. So I think the treatment, the large scale of treatment is I mean, maybe it's interesting to further analyze, but I do believe that is have a big role to play. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there are other questions, then we have still 2-3 minutes for questions. Maybe I have one for, okay, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Thủy, medical doctor in Hanoi Medical University, viral hepatitis and infectious disease units. I am a member of technical working group in the MOS development guideline and WHO guideline development 2023. I have no comment and question. I would like to share some information related to hepatitis B in Vietnam, especially PMTCT. Some information that I would like to put, we have estimated the hepatitis prevalent among children less than 5 years around 0.6%. However, it's far from to reach the target of EMTCT of hepatitis. We have some reason, the coverage of HBsAg amongst pregnant women is very low, around 50%. Yeah. However, we have another challenge, like not easy for pregnant women with hepatitis infection assess the HBV DNA or HBeAg. However, fortunately, last year, MOS already applies WHO recommendation in area where the HBeAg and HBV DNA is not available. We can provide antiviral therapy prophylaxis for pregnancy pregnant women with only HBsAg positive. Is very new. However, how to increase the coverage of HBsAg testing is a big problem for Vietnam. Not only now, in the coming time, it is a big issue. Government already provides support for 39 provinces to promote the rapid test for HBV, HIV, syphilis test in commune level. Yeah, Hnkh already now provides training for 39 provinces. However, the big problem in Vietnam is the procurement of testing is a big problem. Therefore, rapid test only available in a few provinces now. Therefore, the rate of coverage of HIV testing very low. Yeah. I would like to have some about the HIV and HCV treatment in Nghệ An and Yên Bái. we saw the rate of serotype 3 is very high compared with other research in Vietnam. We have some research, the rate of serotype 3 only less than 5%. Therefore, I was very surprised because the rate is very high. I think I don't know about your idea about it, and yet the success of this study is lower than compared with other project like Gold Fund. Successful rate is very high, 60 and 97%, and in quick start, the successful rate more than 68%. Therefore, is HCV treatment in rural area and mountain is a big problem. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I don't know, Dr. Lin, if you would like to comment on the HBV section regarding access and I don't know, would you, Dr. Lin, would you like to comment on what she said about hepatitis B?
Yeah, so I have provide more information related to the funding for the testing HBsAg, HBs antigen. So you may know that in Vietnam, so we just approved for the national target program for the health and population to 2026 to 2035. Including that, so we have one project related to the infection disease, including HIV and hepatitis. And we, based on the legal document currently in Vietnam, we already put some kind of testing for key population. For example, related to the HBsAg for key population like a pregnant, PWID, and also for the PrEP user and or something like this. So therefore, in the next 10 years, so we can have maybe small money from the national target program to contribute animation to ending hepatitis B in pregnant. So now totally investment from national total budget of in national target program for the next 10 years. So we estimation 1,200 billion Vietnam đồng for 10 years for hepatitis. And this program focus on the primary healthcare, not including the testing, but also for the capacity building for the healthcare worker at the primary facility, like a health commune station and also the health central area. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And maybe I have a last question for Mark. Let's say that you are Madame Irma, okay? What would be your best bet regarding an HBV cure cocktail within 10 years? Do you think that we're going to have one? And if you had to bet, what would you say?
I think that we are going to have one, and I bet that the combination of sRNA and ASO could be a good option. Because
so the sRNA and?
ASO.
Okay.
Antisense oligonucleotide, because the current ongoing study is quite impressive. And the fact by the end of bepirovirsen, because we begin with sRNA and then we continue with ASO. And well, so far, the people are still on treatment, but huge number, more than 50% have achieved SBS and so that's interesting. And we have to follow the New Zealand study with the Arcus, because this is very interesting. The only problem with this kind of therapy is that you don't really know what's happened of the intel. So that's the HBV DNA, which is cut. And we have to be sure that this is removed and that there is no issue on long-term follow-up. And the other point with this kind of therapy, when you are inactivate part of the HBV DNA, is that you need to be sure that you don't go on site which are pro-oncogenic. And so that's something which is key to study before we can launch this kind of therapy. But anyhow, I think that what I show you is that there is solutions to achieve a finite durations of treatments for at least the HBe antigens negative patients compared to HBe positive. And just to follow the comment about the HBV DNA in pregnant women, I mean, there is now sufficient data showing from Africa that when you are using HBs antigen titer and HB correlated antigens as a surrogate marker for HBV DNA, the result is fantastic, is as good as using HBV DNA, though. So by using just a single algorithm in which whole pregnant women with HBe antigens should be treated, positive antigens, because it's associated with high level of HBs antigens, so you don't need to go further. For those who are HBe antigens negative, then if you had on the top of that HB correlated antigens, you can really select the populations of women who need to be treated. But as mentioned by Dr. Lin, the huge problem in Vietnam, as in other countries, is that most of the part of the screening is done at delivery, which is too late. And so you can just, in this case, do vaccinations of the newborn, but you are not able, and you know that you will have some contaminations because, of course, those pregnant women who arrive at delivery with HB antigens positive, they may transmit the virus. So that's the key point. It's how you can implement HBV screening in pregnant women early in pregnancy in order to have the correct solutions to propose to the woman.
Okay, so thank you. I think we can thank all the speakers. Thank you. And now we're going to have the last session on STI. So this is Armel and Dr. Xiong, I think, who are moderators.
Thank you. So now we can enter on the very last session about sexual transmitted disease. So I'm very pleased to co-chair with Dr. Li Ming Yang. In this session, we will explore several key aspects of STI, from current epidemiological situation in Vietnam to the growing challenge of antimicrobial resistance. And we will also discuss a new prevention strategy with DoxyPEP and DoxyPrep among MSM, and as well the challenges of HPV vaccination in Vietnam. So maybe Dr. Li Ming Yang, you can introduce the first speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, my co-chair, Amel Pasquet, Dr. Amel Pasquet. Thank you. Yes, this is the final, but not least important sessions. I'm very happy that we still have many participants here. So please give us ourselves a round of applause. And very happy to see all of you here. So we have the 4 presentations. So let me first invite Dr. Phạm Thị Minh Phương, who's from the National Hospital for Dermatology and Venereology, the largest clinical center and technical center for STIs in Vietnam. And welcome, please welcome Dr. Phương. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, my colleague, and thank you very much for a very nice introduction from the chairman and also for inviting me to be here today to present a topic of sexually transmitted infection in Vietnam and also in National Hospital of Dermatology and Venereology. My presentation will have three main parts. First of all, overview of STI situation nationwide and STI at the National Hospital Dermatology and Venereology, and our study on knowledge, attitude, and practice in STI at the NHDV. The slide show that according to WHO in 2020, globally we have 374 million STI cases of curable disease, among which Western Pacific region, where our country located, accounted for 86 million cases. And this one show you the data from our passive reporting system from 2009 to 2017. So every year we got 220,000 to 350,000 STI cases reporting from this DV system. Among the cases, the most common STI was the genital warts. And distribution by case by gender show that most of the patient reporting from our passive system was female, which accounting for 75 to 85%. And the age group of 15 to 49 years group accounting for more than 90% of the all cases. This is some overview, some data from our DV passive system sent to our hospital. And here's some information, some data from the National Hospital of Dermatology and Venereology. In our hospital is a leading hospital at central level. We manage and treat skin disease, leprosy, and also sexually transmitted infection. We have established a STI clinic in our hospital in 2023 with the duties of diagnosis, treatment, and management of STI patients. We also provide the training and scientific research and doing some policy advocacy. From our database from 2023 to 2026, we have 33,000 STI cases managed in our STI clinics. Among which most of the cases gender ward account for very high percentage, ranging from 87 to 90%. And the gonorrhea, chlamydia, and other syphilis accounted for much lower percentage. Distribution by gender showing that most of the cases managed in our STI clinics was male. You can see ranging from more than from 83% to nearly 70%. And the age group of 25 to 40 accounted for nearly 60% of the all cases. Regarding geographic distribution, we can see that in gonorrhea, chlamydia, and herpes, nearly 60% of the cases was from urban and 40% from rural area. Regarding education level, most of the cases have the high school and undergraduate education level. And occupational distribution, we can see that nearly 50% of the patients do not disclose their occupation, so we just put in other occupation. Sexual behavior, you can see the very high level, nearly 90% of the people have a sex without a condom. And then 40% have oral sex and 30% of them have more than one sexual partner. 72% of the STI cases come to our clinic do not have any STI history. Factor related to gonorrhea infection was found in gender and in the place of residence, in which male are more likely to have a gonorrhea infection and urban people are more likely to have a gonorrhea infection in compared with the rural people. We can find some risk behavior associated with the gonorrhea. They are sex workers having oral sex, being sexual abuse, and have more than one sexual partner. A syphilis-related factor was gender, place of residence, and some sexual behavior such as anal sex and being male, have sex with male. Chlamydia infection-related factor was found only in gender distribution, in which male are more likely to be chlamydia infected than female. Among syphilis group, the anal sex behavior are more common than in gonorrhea, statistically different, and also in syphilis group, male have sex with male more common in gonorrhea group, statistically different. So we talk something about the genital warts. With the number of visits every year, more than 1,000 cases, but the number of patients range about 4,000 to 6,000 because many people can go to our hospital several times a year. And among the genital wart patients, nearly 60% of them were male. And the age group of 25 to 40 years accounted for nearly 50% of all people, all patients. Pregnant women accounted for 4 to 6% among the female who have genital warts. We'll talk a little bit about knowledge, attitude, and practice. Study in our hospital. It is cross-sectional study with we recruited 515 participants. And you have a variable on knowledge, variable on attitudes, and variable on practice, real practice. This is some information about our study group, in which you can see that they are very young people with the mean age from 28, and more than 62.9% of them are single. This is score on knowledge on STI. We divided by good knowledge with a score of knowledge more than 31. The median to separate the good knowledge and not good knowledge. And you can see that among the knowledge are associated with the marital status with single people. With the married people have a better knowledge than the single people. You can see the red color. Attitudes toward STI, you can see that 77% of them agree with condom use during sexual intercourse reduce STI risks. So a lot of people agree that condom is very good in prevent STI. And 80% of them support for informing sexual partner when having a symptom. By the attitude level, we can see some the positive attitude level towards STI differences in type residence, in occupation, and in marital status. So you can see the red color in the variable that we can have a significant differences. Practice on STI risk factor. But you can see that even they have a very good attitude to condom use, but the practice is very bad. 87.6% of them do not use condom. And 61 of them have a multiple sexual partner. This slide shows some factors associated with good practice. The factor was in gender, in type residence, in knowledge about STI and attitude toward STI. So in conclusion, from 2009 to 2017, we have 220 to 350,000 reported STI cases nationwide, among which genital was the most common, and the female accounted for 75 to 85% of the patient, and age group of 15 to 49 accounted for more than 90%. In HDV from June 2023, we managed more than 33,000 STI cases, among which genital wart accounted for 86%, followed by syphilis and gonorrhea. In genital wart group, male accounted for 60% every year, and age group of 25 to 40 accounted for 50%. Each person visits hospital 2 to 2.5 times a year. In STI group, other than genital warts, we can see that 71% of them were male. Age group was 25 to 40 accounted for nearly 60%, and the prevalence of rural and urban in nearly the same, 52 versus 49%. Sexual behavior, some very common sexual behavior includes unprotected sex in 88.9%, oral sex 41%, and multiple partner 29%. Gonorrhea was more common in male and urban residents. Syphilis were more frequent in female and rural population, and syphilis was strongly associated with anal sex. For KAP, married people had better knowledge than non-married, and single people had a better attitude than married, and urban people had better attitude than in rural. Regarding practice, you can see the female have better practice than male, and the rural people have better practice than the urban people. And good knowledge have better practice. So it is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
So thank you, Dr. Minh Phương, for the presentation. I have to note that when you see the presentation, there are two parts. One is the data from National Surveillance System of STI, which stopped in 2017. So there was no more surveillance from 2018 up to now. That's why the hospital established its own surveillance unit in the hospital, but only for the patient of the hospital, right? And it's a very important effort to monitor the trend. But it seems like that there are a lot of patients seeking genital warts treatment, and that's something we want to discuss in the Q&A session. Thank you, Dr. Phương. So the next one presentation is also an expert from our university, Hanoi Medical University, but also she also has a position at the hospital. And Associate Professor Phạm Thị Lan will give us an overview of the gonorrhea antimicrobial resistance, global, but especially Vietnam situation. Professor Lan.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. So thank you very much for the organizing committee for inviting me to present today about the topic of antimicrobial resistance in Neisseria gonorrhea. So first of all, I would like to mention about the global burden of gonorrhea. You can see that WHO in 2020 estimated that There are more than 80 million new cases in adults of gonorrhea annually globally. So highest rate in African and also Western Pacific, with high prevalence in young group. And many cases is asymptomatic. That's why it's very difficult to control. And also increased cases in Europe and North America, especially among MSM. And oropharyngeal gonorrhea is also increasing. This is a potential reservoir for drug resistance. And also international travel contribute to the spread of resistant strains. So you can see from here the speed of resistance is increasing even faster than introduction of the antimicrobial microbials. You can see here in 1935, the first introduction of sulfonamide, and 10 years later, so more than 90% resistance to sulfonamide, and later on penicillin, tetracycline, and spectramycin. And spectramycin, you can see that just a few years later, the Neisseria gonorrhea already resists to spectramycin, and later on fluoroquinolone and also macrolide. And the last introduction of cephalosporin is in 1990s. But later on, you can see that continue to develop the gonorrhea resistance, especially we can see that XDR can find in USA, in UK and Australia, and even in England. This is the this show the use of ciprofloxacin. Sorry, this is the old version of this one. I update the new presentation, but yes, you can see from here that ciprofloxacin resistance. So nowadays, very high range of resistance in ciprofloxacin, and nowadays no longer recommended for treatment of gonorrhea by WHO, and for azithromycin also. You can see that it was introduced and recommended as part of dual therapy in 2009, and at the moment no longer recommend for the routine treatment of gonorrhea. For ciprofloxacin, it introduced in 1990s as the most effective treatment for Neisseria gonorrhea, but later on we can see that the emergence of strains with decreased susceptibility and also appear the mutation PNA in 2009. And WHO warns the global threat of ceftriaxone resistance, and also emergence of extensively drug resistance. And CDC has to recommend to increase the dose of ceftriaxone from 250 to 500 milligram. And at the moment, the resistance rate is quite low, but the main thing is that it's spread worldwide in many regions in the world, and it's remain the last empirical treatment option currently available. But of course, recently two novel antibiotic have been approved by FDA. It's the cetirizine and zoliflodacin, recently approved in December last year, very recently. But the main thing is that it's not available in most of the country. And you can see from here, this shows that the penicillin, spectramycin, tetracycline, to 250, 500, and nowadays recommended by WHO to 1 gram for treatment of the gonorrhea. This shows the percentage of Neisseria gonorrhea SRS with the resistant or decreased susceptibility to ceftriaxone, to cefixime and azithromycin, and also the ciprofloxacin. You can see that for ciprofloxacin, so many countries in the survey have very high percentage of resistance, from 70 to 100%. So in this one, Vietnam, we